Welcome to Evolving on Purpose with Matt Swartz. This podcast is where real leaders share the inner work behind their breakthroughs and where you'll find the tools and stories to work through whatever is holding you back from who you're meant to be so you can make the impact you're here to make and help change the world.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Evolving on Purpose podcast. I am back with Dave O'Dwyer. Dave, great to see you. Thanks for coming back.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for having me back. I'm really looking forward to this coaching style session one. So it's really good. And also to say, I really enjoyed. I listened to your first episode of the podcast and hearing your story, and it was just really powerful of just how much our stories really resonated. And it was just, I know we talked a little bit about it when we did the first, our first conversation, but going and actually hearing your whole story was I was like, all right, man, I want to get to know Matt more. This is someone I can definitely really on the same wavelength of what we want to accomplish in the world. And it was just, It's been amazing to connect with you.
Yeah, you too. Yeah, I mean, it was easier for me, the first podcast, I'm listening to your story and I'm like, yeah, great. And you're like, yeah, the guy's just asking me questions. I don't know anything about him. So I appreciate that. Thanks for listening. Soft pitch, if you haven't checked out the first episode, right? I go through kind of three of my main struggles. And the goal isn't to make it all about me. It's just hey, these are the challenges and struggles that we deal with, right? And this is what it looked like on my side. And it looked different on your side and different on her side and different on his side. But any good leader, right? People that meet me on the street or, oh, he's so charismatic and he's so, he seems like such an expert. It's yeah, but let me tell you about how we got there, right? We did not, it was, there was a process. You're distracting me, Dave. I got to read the intro. What are you doing? But thank you very much.
You're wonderful compliments. I know. Yeah. I'm such a jerk there.
Thanks, Dave. No, I appreciate it very much. So Dave O'Dwyer is a men's ADHD coach, community builder, and founder of the League of Spiritual Gentlemen. After nearly 2 decades in professional kitchens and a personal journey through ADHD, addiction recovery, mental health struggles, and self-reinvention, Dave now helps men who feel scattered, ashamed, or disconnected build structure, emotional regulation, purpose, and brotherhood. Through his MAN method, maturity, assertiveness, and nurturing, Dave supports men in learning how to lead themselves with honesty, discipline, compassion, and practical systems that work with the ADHD brain instead of against it. His work blends lived experience, stoic reflection, personal development, and grounded men's work to help men stop hiding, reconnect with themselves, and build the lives that they can respect. Anyway, glad to have you back, Dave. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, glad to be here.
So for a little bit of prep, you said that what you really wanted to focus on for the coaching episode was, you stepping out, you taking on this role as a leader and the things that are coming up for you. So, I mean, the place that I would start is just, tell me about that journey so far. Tell me about some of the wins. Tell me about some of the struggles. What has it been like as you've kind of moved more into the spotlight? I've seen you've been doing some social media stuff. Tell me about your experience of moving into your experience of being a leader.
Yeah, so it's funny because leadership in a weird way has always kind of been with me. So I was really big in the Boy Scouts. So I was actually one of the youngest people in my troop to go to junior leadership training at 14. I held high positions not in my troop, but even in my district area. I end up for the Order of the Arrow, was assistant vice chief, and have always had leadership, but always been in kind of a small kind of space. And when I found this group called Men's ADHD Support Group during COVID, and they were doing kind of meetings, so I started kind of going to those. And when I was doing kind of 12-step recovery work, I'd usually end up kind of falling into the point where people would be listening to me hey, Dave, you should lead a meeting. Especially when I was first getting sober, my sponsor was all right, at some point you have to do service work, lead a meeting. And so doing that part within a contained space has always been comfortable. Yeah. But it's when I step out into the great world of YouTube or Instagram or TikTok and trying to put out a message there, and it feels all right, you're shouting into the wind and you don't know if anyone's actually listening to you. You don't know if anyone's there. And that kind of sense of all right, does anyone actually does anyone actually give a shit? Like, does anyone actually care about this message? Am I packaging it the right way? And so when I started YouTube over 5 years ago, and I decided to go I'm going to go head on into it. I was like, I'm going to make a challenge for myself. So I'm not going to do it for anyone else, because I had to take others out of the equation. Because if I did it for other people, or if I did it for views or likes, I would quit after a week after no one's seeing the video.
Totally.
So I ended up deciding I'm going to do the Daily Stoic, book by Ryan Holiday. And it's, all right, 1 page a day. So I'm just going to pop on the camera, read the page, tell my thoughts, turn off the camera, upload the video, and just, can I do this for a full year? Can I do every day? And I obviously failed. I didn't get through the full year. I definitely had misses and missteps and everything else, but it started to build the confidence. And then, my wife and I, we were in a 3-bedroom house. We had to move down to a cabin / kind of shed. We lost our house, just couldn't afford it anymore. Had the wedding to pay for, so we moved into my my mother-in-law's shed. And so I couldn't do my late Sunday night meetings because they were East Coast time. I live in Ireland, so it would have been in like 11, 12 o'clock at night. And when you're in a studio space and your wife's got to be up at 7 in the morning, you really can't stay up until 1. And I have the American loud voice, so there's no way I'm quiet. Like, I've just never been a quiet person. I'm a small, skinny dude, but in every restaurant I've ever worked at, and I've always been yelled at for being too loud in the kitchen where they can hear me in the dining room when it's like, so like I have a loud voice. So I decided, all right, I'm going to start my own meeting. I'm going to do it Wednesday nights. I'm going to do, I'll call it a midweek men's circle. We're going to start at 7 p.m. my time so I can hit to that thing. And when I first started that off, it was really because I was missing that support network that I would get from, really wasn't finding it in AA anymore. I wasn't really being able to connect with the group on the Sunday night meetings anymore. And I was like, okay, I need to do something for me. And it was really kind of selfish. It was like, all right, I need to do it for me. So I did it on a Wednesday. I had 1 or 2 guys show up. One guy show up for a hot second and disappear. And then one guy end up sticking around for the for majority of it. And then the next week, no one showed up. And then the next week, 1 person showed up again, and then 2 people, and then 3 people, and it's grown from there. And as much as it's been really amazing over the last 2 years to see it grow, making the transition and the identity shift from being a chef to, and it's only I think in this past 6 months of where I start calling myself a former chef, that I am a coach, that I am a community leader, that I have a business. It seemed like for the last, year and a half, 2-3 years, I was playing coach. I was playing the character. I was playing the thing, because in my heart of hearts, I'm like, all right, who would want to listen to me? What do I have to really offer? Sure. And, what is and I always kind of hated the guru style people like, I know everything and you follow what I do. And I'm like, dude, I'm effed up sometimes. I screw up all the time. Like, I am not the guy on top. I am leading from the trenches of like, this is how I've gone along. This is what's helped me. This is what I think can help you. And that's something that I always remembered from Boy Scouts and the junior leadership training. It's one of the things that stuck with me is they talked about different leadership styles. Mm-hmm. And the one that I always gravitated towards was the person that leads from the front, the person that leads by example. It's like, all right, the only way I've noticed as a coach now that I've been able to really institute change into my clients is not by giving them things to do or telling you got to do this. It's by embodying the change that they want to see in themselves, by taking on and becoming that person. And that's where I sometimes get dissonance, because it's like, I'm still like, I'm supposed to set the example, but I'm still falling down. And the big, it's been a big financial struggle of going all in on this community. I do have people in there that are unemployed, who struggle with work, who are struggling with all kinds of things. And it's like, and then they struggle with the hey, here's a service I want to offer versus I just would rather, if I could help you for free, I would help you for free. And my wife tells me this all the time. It's like, dude, you give way too much away for free. And I get annoyed with that because I'm like, I'd rather give everything away for free. But then I'm like, all right, then how can I eat? I'm not serving me first. I'm not taking care of my core relationship of me. And this is where a lot of the dissonance comes in, of where, like, coaching is one thing, building a community is one thing, but running a business, understanding what sales is, understanding what marketing is, and I thought, like, okay, by the end of, by the time that I start this, within 6 months, I'm going to be super successful. I'm going to have the system where I can get 5 clients a month, and my roster is always going to be full. And it's not the case. It's like, all right, if I can get 1 client every couple of months, awesome. It's realized it's put me in a place of recognizing, of going back to what you said, of putting myself out there. And it's not putting myself out there in the whole wide world, but presenting what I do to the people that are in my community. I have about 35, 40 members. It's not like I don't have like this grand 3,000, 4,000 thing, but it's like, all right, it goes back to building relationships. And I suck at relationships. I had a dating coach for a reason. I had to learn about relationships and recognizing that all of these things require building relationships. And then I'm afraid of, like, all right, I'm going to invest in this too much. And then am I ignoring my wife? Am I not handling the other parts? And it's that fear of, if I got and it's really, for me, it comes down to a fear of success. If I got so successful, would I lose myself in that success? Would I be able to handle the responsibility that comes along with success, that comes along with a community, especially when we're dealing in the mental health kind of fields? I had a guy reach out to me he came to one meeting, and I realized he was beyond my level. Like, he was someone who needed, like, clinical professional help. I'm like, dude, all right. And it was like, to set that boundary, to realize, all right, dude, this is too much for me, which is like, whoa, all right. And then it makes me question, all right, am I doing the right thing? Or am I being like some of these dudes taking advantage of, of vulnerable people to take their money, right? Like, I don't think I am, but that's always been a huge fear of mine, because I've had great salesmen and marketers sell me on products that I thought I needed. And then the next day I realized I got, like, emotionally duped, and now I'm in the hole $6,000 and digging myself out of that hole. Yeah. Like, it's, all right, hey, this is going to solve all my problems. It just caused more problems. So it's like, okay, I don't want to put that on anyone else, but I also need to value my work, that, it is valuable. It is worthwhile. I do, for people who have gone through men who have gone through my program, have gotten results, and gotten results by halfway through. They've seen significant changes. Their partners have reached out to me to say how much they've seen their partners change, how they've seen. So it's like, okay, I see the evidence in one bucket, and then I have this kind of emotional kind of doubting self that says, like, oh, like, you're not worthy of doing this. You're not worthwhile. You don't have the value. Yeah. You don't have the piece of paper. You don't have the psychology degree. You're not an official counselor. You got your life coach training online, so that diminishes what you've learned, all the skills and everything that you've spent time learning, everything you've gone through. Doesn't mean jack, because you don't have a BA or an MBA that says that you went to a 4-year university. Because I'm a high school, college dropout. I've successfully failed in everything I've done in school. So I've been questioning whether or not should I go back to school for the paper. And then I get clients, and I'm like, wait a minute, no, I don't need that, but maybe I do need it. And then I'm
Yeah, for sure. So let me tease out a couple of things, right? Because we can go, there's obviously the emotional depth here. Then we'll go down that route in terms of, like, the self-worth and all of that, right? And there are also some, like, very structural things, I think, that, like, we as coaches can struggle with. you remind me that I am supposed to say my thing at the top, which I've been forgetting to say in these coaching conversations, that I would want to remind everybody that this is not therapy, that despite me being a licensed clinician, I am not operating in that capacity. This is a coaching conversation on a podcast. This is not meant to be medical advice or suggestions for treatment. And if you have questions about your medical challenges or mental health, please consult a doctor or mental health professional. So thanks for reminding me to say that. And, let me start here, which is like 12 years ago, when I started in my therapy practice, there was this coaching gal that like reached out to myself and my CEO at the time and like wanted to interview us for a podcast about like coaching versus therapy, and this conversation came up very quickly in my career. It's like, okay, like are coaches allowed? Like are therapists allowed? Like what's the deal? And I am, for better or for worse, like kind of an anti-structuralist, which I think comes along with, ADHD is like, is this the right structure? Obviously, I think there's value to certain aspects of our medical system and yada, yada, but I think there's also challenges. I don't believe that the structures are super firm. I think there's like you said, there's like, oh, wow, no, this is clearly clinical, right? And then there's also stuff that like, this is absolutely coaching, like setting goals and, taking the steps you need to get where you're going to go and exploring beliefs and like, come on, right? And there's like fuzzy gray area stuff, but like, I believe in grief coaching. I believe in ADHD coaching. I believe in, any of these things that are like quasi, in the same way that like, yeah, you can go a doctor for weight loss, but you can also talk to a weight coach or you go to somebody at a gym that will talk to you about meal planning and this and that, right? And I think the barrier is always like, hey, is this person a risk to themselves or others? If I'm coaching, I can't touch that, right? So I have, two sides to my business. I got the therapy side, I got the coaching side. And on the coaching side, it's like, yeah, if you have severe depression, suicidal ideation, schizophrenia, bipolar, any of those things that are like clearly medical in nature, no, that's not what I'm doing, right? But I have tons of people that are like on the edge that are like, hey, yeah, I've got some anxiety, but like, this is about life improvement, right? And I tend to funnel people in the coaching direction because I'm like this is not like I cannot justify that this is a deeply medical service for you. Like I don't think anxiety, there's a difference between like I'm having daily panic attacks and I'm worried about my future. Like, oh, you have anxiety? Like, yeah, we all have right? Like, you have ADHD. Oh, you have trouble organizing? Oh, you have trouble maintaining relationships? Like, is that clinical? Like, are these like human condition issues? Cool. That's coaching, right? And, the reality is for you, for me, for anybody, when I started as like a baby therapist, I had no idea what I was doing. Like, I look back, I'm like, oh, you sweet summer child, right? So I think, they call it a practice for a reason. It's a therapy practice. It's a coaching practice. Like, yeah, dude, like you are going to be a better coach in 7 years than you are today. And that's just the reality of it. And your job is to get really good at like, what am I good at? What have I already learned? Like you said, as myself that I can model, that I can create structure around, right? I've learned the value of being in group conversation. Cool. I can provide that. I've learned the value of, I've got my MAN framework and that, I've learned these skills and I can teach these skills, right? Like just on a concrete level, that's what you have to give. And then the areas where you're like, no, I can't help with that. Just be clear, be honest. Like, no, I don't have that experience. No, I don't have that training. No, I can't. Right. And I think it's really important to develop a network of resources that you can then say, hey, like, I can't do this, but you can go over here. And people are going to be grateful and they're much more likely to stay in your community, when you're able to provide those resources to them. So I don't know, like on a practical level, is that helpful?
Yeah, no, because it's actually what I did because he was a guy in the UK there, and so it's like I don't know if you heard of the Samaritans, the Good Samaritans. So they do they handle kind of crisis call situations. So they're a volunteer organization that handles
Cool.
people who are in mental health crisis and then can relate them onto things. So I was kind of like, look, give the Samaritans another call.
Yeah.
I know you've tried, like, you need to go see a psychologist, dude. This is outside my kind of depth. Like, even when I'm going through on my kind of discovery calls with clients, I'm really conscientious of when they're like, oh, dude, I'm not working. I'm like, dude, you can't afford me then. Like, you don't have your baseline in order. I'm not going to take on a client. Like, and maybe that shot me in the foot in the past, but it's like, it goes against a value set of like feeling that I've been screwed over by salespeople, and I have to get comfortable with sales. This is one of my big struggles, is getting comfortable with the selling process. But it's because I've been screwed over, is that like, if you don't have a job, you don't have the disposable income for this, I'm not gonna push you. If you still want to do it, I can't make you not do it, but I'll be like, look, fair warning, like, this isn't gonna something where, here, give me your money and I'm going to turn around and make you $6,000 if you finish my, like, no, dude, I'm not like, I'm here to like, what we're dealing with is a lot of the internal work of getting you learning how to build self-love, self-discipline, learning how to deal with the core inside stuff so that the outside stuff changes. But I can't guarantee any, like, you'll get your money's worth, but you're not going to get your money back, if that makes sense. So it's where I've had to say no to people. Like, they're like, oh, dude, yeah, like, we'll work something out. Like, dude, like, no, I can't. It wouldn't be in good conscience in me. And I know there's other people out there, because the coaching field is unregulated, that will sit there and take your money for, whatever you do. And so I have my own perfect like code of ethics, but others may not have that. So like, this is why I have to hold to my own code of ethics. Because there's no standard kind of, like, unlike in therapy, right? There's a code of ethics. There's a regulatory board to handle misbehavior and things like that. This is an unregulated field that almost 10 years ago, no one really heard of life coaching. It wasn't like as popular as is now. It's like blown up,
especially
in the last 10 years.
post-COVID, right?
Yeah,
for sure. And I so want to like validate and respect what you're saying about, it's on us to be ethical. And I think that's so important. And I've also worked with plenty of, like, I know what you're talking about. Like, I've laid down a pretty penny for some packages of, of coaching, and like, oh, should I have done that? Should I have not done that? Oops. Right. Like, and, and sometimes that's gone well and sometimes it hasn't. And I totally appreciate you not wanting to take advantage of people. But I think, like, practically there's two pieces of this. Like, number one is that's where the free resources come in. Right? I have, whatever we're offering for free, and everybody's different. I have this free, can you make a worksheet that's absolutely free, right? That anybody can have. Great. Here's this. Here's the YouTube. Here's Instagram, right? Like, whatever it is that I like, these are the things I have for free, right? And then, hopefully in your packaging, right, there's different tiers, right? Like, hey, this is like, if you just want the group, this is super affordable, right? If you want the group and individual, this is what it costs. If you want the group and, ultra individual where you're actually seeing me every week, right? This is the cost, right? And you got to value yourself, right? It has to, you take a look at the market, you get an analysis of the market. What's the average price here? Where do I feel like my skill set lies on that continuum? I set a price. I think that the part that I want to challenge you on is the part that's like, you're not in a good situation. I can't take your money because, and I'll put it this way, I have just seen so many people that won't do the work until they rise to the occasion. And that pressure, right? Absolutely. For some people can take them offline, but also for other people can be exactly the stimulus that they need to get their butt in gear. And let's be honest, for ADHD, it's wildly common, right? That unless there's like something actually biting on my ankle, I'm not going to move, right? And so part of the investment is that emotional motivation. And like you said, you say like, look, my program this is not a marketing program. I cannot promise you'll make $5,000 next week, right? But what do you have to offer? You have relationship building skills that you can offer that will help them network. right? What do you have, structure and organization skills that you can offer that will help them, think about how to put that process together. And it's like, Dave, like, look, you've learned how to get jobs and you've learned how to make money, and now you're learning how to go out on your own. I would discourage you from teaching unless you feel like, hey, I'm an expert entrepreneur and that's what I can. No, I would discourage you from teaching that. But if you're like, hey, my job is to help this guy with ADHD figure out how to get a job and move forward, like, yeah, dude, I think that's well within your scope. Wouldn't you think?
Yeah, it's funny because the thing that a lot of a couple of the guys come to me for is like, dude, I really love your community. I love like the midweek men's circle. I love the Sunday meeting that you do. Like, all right, how do you do that? How do you build up your school? How'd you do that? Like, I want to know how you do, particularly how I run like the meeting on the midweek men's circle. They're like, okay. And they've like one guy who's actually went off and started his own Tuesday men's meeting kind of thing. And I don't know what format he uses, but he's like, yeah, no, I like what you do here. And I had another guy and a couple other people have come in and it's like, all right, how do I build that? And that's what I'm comfortable with, because it's like, yeah, I can't teach you how to be a successful like making $1 million. When I see like these ads for like, hey, Mr. Life Coach, you want to make 10,000 in a month and make it consistently. I'm like, all right, dude, that's not me. Yeah. So I call kind of BS of like, all right, like how much is that really real? How much is that the exaggeration? Like I have a really like simple number in my head of what I want this to be at over a long enough time frame of where it makes me $5,000 a month at the peak of where I can enough to support my family and to do it full time and know that I'm building savings. So that I not want to be one of these dudes who's like, I made $3 million in the last year. Like, I'm like, or I want to have a large community, but I also know that the larger it gets, the more unwieldy it can become. As it's grown, I have volunteers that help me out from the group, and I realized too in my kind of leadership position there, I was like, oh yeah, hey, cool, help me out, but I didn't give them clear instructions, and then so they ended up letting a bunch of people that, and then I had to go and like it was, and I didn't blame those guys, I blamed myself, because I was like, look, I didn't give you guys clear enough instructions on what I needed done.
But that's how you learn the SOPs, right? Sorry, standard operating procedures, right? Like, as you know, anybody with ADHD, you say, okay, let's write down the policy, let's write down the standard operating procedure, and obviously we start to have a mini panic attack, right? But like, I think, like starting maybe to get into some of the emotional component of this, Dave, so there's this fear there of success. There's this fear there of things building, because you recognize as things build, you're going to run into a challenge, and that challenge is going to be painful. But that's just like before, like that's where the work is, right? That the work lives on the edge, right? On the growth edge. And, I think obviously I don't want anybody to drown in it, but it's also like, this is for me, like if I have to if there's one skill you could teach the world, I call it emotional digestion, right? How do I, as I move into experience and I try to solve a problem, there's all of these emotions that come up. How do I successfully digest those emotions? Because, I'll just explain it really quickly. You have an emotion, whatever, fear, anger, whatever, guilt, right? Oh, there's this client, he's offering me money. I don't know if I should take his money. I feel guilt. Okay. So this guilt connects back to unprocessed guilt from our past. And how do we engage with this guilt? How do we feel it and ultimately release that guilt, which I call digestion. And then there's going to be a waste product that we let go of. And then there's going to be potential energy, just like if I eat an apple, right? I eat an apple, I digest it. There's the stuff that we're not keeping, and there's the stuff that becomes energy in my body. If we avoid those difficult emotional experiences, then we don't produce the creative energy necessary to move and build in the direction that we want to build. Does that make sense?
Oh no, absolutely. It's funny because I was working with a client earlier this week, and it was something right along the same line. So sometimes I need to hear it from an outside
Of
source
course.
to like, yeah,
Yeah.
it really resonates a lot because it's like, and it's like wanting because it's scary. It's it's that fear, right? Of stepping up into that and seeing that kind of like, all right, transforming that emotional pain. Because if I don't transform it, I'm going to transmit it. And it's recognizing of like, okay, like, like what, and like growth is like a healing and growth is not painless. It's painful. Like I think people like get this wrong of like, oh, pain, like it's easy. Like healing's easy. Healing fucking sucks, dude. Like
Yeah, it's brutal, man. Yeah.
it's a brutal son of a bitch. Like one of my favorite phrases recently has been like, the road to success is paved with failure, and it's a brutal road. It beats you up, and it's like, and it's just how many times can you keep getting back up? Like how many times does like Tyson knock you out, and how many times can you keep getting back up to keep moving forward? And it's, and then when you add a financial kind of strain to it, then that adds to relationship strain. That like, then it's like I have this kind of guilt of like, okay, we're in a kind of a financial situation, but I'm going to be going for, my wife and I are going to go for 3 weeks to go see my mom, but she's diagnosed with Alzheimer's. I live halfway around the world. We see her maybe, last time I was home was 3 years ago. She was out last year for the wedding. So it's like, I see her maybe once a year. She's 80. Like the time that I have left with her is like face to face time, like actual minutes, hours in front of her are probably minutes, hours, maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks of total actual time. Like I actually have with my mother, like it's not a lot left. So it's like, okay, like I know at the end of my life, I'll look back and know that's a good decision. At the moment of now, I'm like, all right, dude, you need to be like, is this like, are you being an idiot here? Are you being fool? Is this an like impulse kind of decision to do this, when the more responsible thing would be to like try to hold on to your financial thing? But it's like, wait a minute, like, is it though? And then I try to think about, all right, what at the end of my life, when I'm, that age and I'm looking back, what would I have rather had? More time with my mom, or another month to try to run down clients or get a part-time job or do these other things that eventually I'm going to have to do anyway. So it's like, all right, what's the more valuable memory that I'm going to be left with? So,
Yeah.
That's,
I think, there's like two big pieces there, like that, I can't ignore what you keep bringing up. So I have to like go there. So you keep bringing up like the financial, the safety piece, right? And I think this is, so classic for so many people. And, I can say all of the things that you would expect around coaching. You got to audit your beliefs and, your scarcity mindset and all that's good. And it's important. But what I have found really helpful here is like, especially for people with ADHD, we get very like all or nothing. We get very excited about, things, right? And then we go and we charge all in, and it's like, fuck, it takes time for these things to grow. Like and I work with, let's say 3/4 of my clients are entrepreneurs of some kind, right? And most of them, the vast majority have very successful businesses. And part of it is like, I get to teach, but part of it's I get to learn. So, I hear the stories of like, okay, the successful people, like they did not go all in right away. They did not. They had a contingency plan, right? Like, yeah, I made money over here. I built the thing over here. And then at some point there was a tipping point. And it was like, okay. And that doesn't mean I'm not going all in on myself. It just means like, what is it about me, about my belief structure that causes me to continue to put myself in a situation where I feel unsafe? And so it's like, yeah, okay, audit your scarcity mindset. But it's like, yeah, the scarcity mindset is leading you to engage in behavior, that causes you to feel this same way again and again. Why are you doing that to yourself? And so, I don't know. Does that make sense? Is that helpful? I'm not trying to tell you to stop going full bore on what you're doing, right? But like, there's always a balance to be had that, can build a sense of safety that then would allow you to feel better in your onboarding conversations, because you're not like, oh, I need to get this one, or I can't say no, or any of that. Because yeah, I have figured out how to meet the safety need over here so that this thing can be creative. I don't know. I don't want to pull you backwards. That's never my goal.
No. But this is what I was trying last year, and like for up to a point, and then we went traveling for the first 3 months of this year because the whole idea was like, okay, like for most of my life, my job as a chef is location dependent.
Yeah.
And we were like, okay, we're going to go travel, live in one country for a month for the first 3 months.
Yeah.
Slight honeymoon kind of thing. So I'm like, okay, I need to go like, all right, what I do with my coaching, it's all online. We've been making this kind of slow kind of push. So I had a 6 month like runway of like, okay, I had enough kind of cash there. And now I'm getting to the end of that runway. There's situations that happened that I had to take part of that runway to support my wife, to support other things. There was, of course, the ups, downs, and turnarounds that happen in life of like, you plan out for that. And now it's coming to the end point of like, okay, now I have to make a really conscious decision. And I noticed too is that when I start taking on that extra, depending on how many hours I do and I get that safety, the urgency of doing the coaching stuff goes down because then my focus, because it's weird, because as soon as you put me into a kitchen, that kitchen will suck up majority of my energy. I become like, because it's once again, as you said, it's that all or nothing kind of thinking. Yeah. And I have an obsession in kitchens. When I go into a professional kitchen, I get obsessed with it. And it's really hard for me to put that at a 50% or a 20% or a 30% energy. I think about it as like, I don't know how to turn that part off of like, I know that it's okay, that's there to build something else. I've had a few jobs that have done that kind of well, that have worked with the ADHD, particularly when I was a relief chef, which is why I want to get my Irish driver's license, because if I can get a car, the impulse car, then I can go to a random space. I'm there for 2 or 3 days. I get to create my schedule and move with it. So it's like, okay, I know what all the pieces are. It's okay. And it's just, all right, how do I put it all together? And then it's that kind of deadline of like, okay, I was looking earlier in the beginning of the summer, but like, okay, I'm going away for 3 weeks. I know I'm going away in August for 3 weeks. So, okay, getting a job up to that point
and then you'll get back and then you'll figure it out.
And then you have to go through with it. So it's,
I think, there's two things there. One is like with the all or nothing thinking, it's like, yeah, Dave, but if you learn how to do that better, won't that be insanely valuable to the clients that you're trying to, teach? Right? Like, how can, that's like the teaching is always in like, oh, where am I struggling in my life with my ADHD? Right. Well, that's what I need to learn. And then I can bring that into my work, into my people. And it's that, versus like, oh, this has always been a struggle for me. And then we come back to what we talked about in the first episode, that shame around these things. And like, again, I work a lot of my clients are like, successful ADHD, anxiety, childhood trauma tends to be like the special collection that I work with, right? And a lot of them have shame around, ADHD or anxiety or whatever that looks like for them. And for me, it's like, now, man, like that's the structure around which you need to build your life. And as you do, there's still going to be growing edges in each of these things. Like, oh yeah, I'm really bad at making lists to do shit. Like I rely on my wife. Nope. Like that's sounds like your growth area, right? Like, okay, your business is dialed in. Time to learn a little bit about how to do that, right? And it's just a stupid example, but like, these areas of challenge that keep jetting out at you, this, like it's like, all right, well, looks like that's, and you've said your work is spiritual, so I'll go in that direction, right? Like that's the whole thing, man. Like, it's like, well, I want to become a really successful coach. Well, I'm not going to just give you a coaching company. I'm going to give you the challenges that are necessary to teach you how to become a really good coach, so that when you get the next person, they're going to need that. And now you have that to give them. And so it's not an accident, in my opinion, that it's like, yeah, that's where I need to go.
And it's funny though too, because in the last 6 months, because like it's that, as you mentioned earlier, when you put an ADHD, or when you put my back against the wall,
Yeah.
I move forward the fastest.
Yeah,
When you
totally.
give me relative kind of safety, that's when I move the slowest. And it's a weird kind of place it's that, once again, it goes to that all or nothing kind of thinking. Because in the last 6 months, I've had more at bats of being on client calls, getting more leads, learning those, like, cause I can't rely on the sushi job. I can't rely on the other things. So I'm like, okay, I gotta fucking do it. So it's forced me to confront those kind of aspects. And even just in this short kind of time span of the last maybe 3 months, I've had way more like at bats or touches of like leads or potential kind of calls. Not all of them gone anywhere, but like I've noticed that significant improvement of like, okay, the only way that I'm going to get really better at this aspect of it is that I have to do it way more. Like the way I got really good at cutting a vegetable, as in I like, was it because I, like was over and over again for, 20 odd years that I got really good at, like it requires that 20,000 hours. And it's where it's like, I want to have more touches in that. And that's, I guess, the fear too. Is like, okay, like I know logically I'm going to be getting a part-time job or something that I can, and probably not something in the kitchen field if I can avoid it, or something that's in mornings just a few hours a week, like working at a school or a creche, or something on the weekends. So I used to be, I do, balloon modeling, like it can make the balloon animals and children's entertainment. I've done that as a gig before. So like looking into those things, because it's relatively good money, of where I just want to, my fear is I'm going to lose focus.
Flexible, right? That
Flexible,
allows you.
so I don't lose focus to the main thing of like, because eventually that's what I want the League of Spiritual Gentlemen to grow to be, like my main financial like source of where I have like the group can grow to 100, 200 people, where we have a really robust community, where we have the graduates and everyone comes back, and it makes a huge impact in my little neck of the woods, right? In my little world of like, and I've seen the impact that it's not, biggest group in the world, but in that little group, I've seen an impact. So I'm like, okay, this is replicable. This can grow. And it's that fear of like, okay, like how big can I really grow it out, that I can still hold capacity for, until the point of where it's like, okay, then we're going to need to really put in firm structures, having those, as you said, developing the SOPs and putting into place and building. And that's the fun of it, but it's also the scary part of it as well. And it's like, I'm forward thinking, but I'm like, all right, I got to keep it present of like what I have that's in front of me, and keeping of like, I stopped doing a lot of my outward stuff on social media and been focusing inward on the 30, 40 guys that I have. That's been, I think, maybe the biggest change in the last month or two, is really, instead of trying to like, hey, come join my group, it's like, okay, for the people that already found me, I've got a good kind of, flow network in from from men's ADHD support group, letting me post, that meeting in their group, and they've got 25K members. So they have a nice flow of people that comes in. So I have enough new people. And I've noticed my, like, we're talking funnels before the thing started. My funnels, you come to a meeting, you come to a couple of meetings, you get to know me. I start messaging you, we message me, we have a call, then you're like, all right, cool, I like what this dude has. All right, then you come work for me. And it's, to me, a more natural way of than me trying to seek someone out and be like, yeah, you struggle with this, I've got your magic.
You have to find what's comfortable for you. And so I think too, I'm just trying to frame a couple of things for people, because like, if you're listening to Dave, right, like, whether it's because you're like, oh, I can connect with the ADHD piece or any of that, or you're like, oh yeah, I'm a younger, and I don't mean in age, but like in maturity of the business, like younger business owner coach, right? Trying to grow this thing. I think there's a lot of people that can connect with it. Like, again, a lot of these things have been said before, but it doesn't mean they're not worth saying again. It's like, yeah, what I believe in is organic growth. Right? These things, you plant the seeds, you water the seeds, you love the seeds, you sunshine the seeds in the right soil, and these things grow. And yeah, and so I lay down the thing that's most natural to me, which is the group. And then I allow that to grow and expand. And then that's going to expand into individual work. And that's going to expand into this, into that. Right. And, the sort of like classic, both like ADHD, I don't know what you would call it, manifestation thing is like, ideas are just ideas. And, people with ADHD, we get very attached to and obsessed with an idea. And I'm not saying that ideas don't have creative power. They absolutely do. But there's a bridge that has to take place between the thing and the idea. And this was always something I struggled with because there are so many people that are like, oh, you can just manifest it instantly. Just like believe in yourself. Like, at this point in my life, I'm not trying to be a naysayer at all. I just, like, my experience has not been that. My experience has been, I have this thing I want to manifest and I'm over here. And then there's these distinct challenges that I have to work through in order to get to the place where I can support that thing that I'm actually trying to build. Like, I want to build this Lego house. Okay, well, you need to collect these bricks and you need to find the instructions and you need to go through this step by step. And you can't just magically leapfrog that. The journey is the thing, right? How do we make the journey to build the League of Spiritual Gentlemen into like, oh, this is the place I want to be? Not here, right? But here, that as I'm along the road, right? And so this is like standard process over product advice, but it's really important, especially for us ADHDers that get super caught on the vision and the end goal. It's like, no, okay, you're trying to build a treehouse. Like, how can this be fun? Do you need someone to come along with you so that you're not doing it alone? Do you need to do a little bit every day? How do we do that so that we're actually, completing the thing? So there's so many people out there building a coaching business. There's so many people out there. And, you were talking about some of those claims. Like, yeah, I don't know about the $1 million, but I can tell you, I know plenty of people. I have watched so many people scale businesses from 0 to 10K months, 30K months, 50K months. I have absolutely worked with people and watched people scale from a very reasonable number to a very unreasonable number. And that number has grown because they're able to provide value and they're able to get a better and better structure around what they're actually offering. And those things, they come with time and they come with generativity. And so all I want is to give anybody like you, and we got to wind down, but I give anybody like you the space and the time and the safety that it takes to build something like that, so that the process of building is enjoyable, so that every day isn't a fear, so that, I'm enjoying what's happening and building. That's what builds a successful business, is it like, especially for people with ADHD, is the process of building it is sustainable. The passion I have, the systems that I'm building. So I don't know if that's helpful. I definitely know it'll be helpful to other people that are in your shoes, but like, yeah, man, like, I hope you're having fun with it. And
no, that's the thing, is that I really love, I love doing the meeting. Like, if I could work for some company where I get to do, like, host a meeting and do, like, client work, like on a day-to-day basis, and just, like, do what I do at the, with the midweek men's circle, with the Sunday set, reflect and reset meetings, what I do with my client work. And I get to do that, like, 5, 6 hours, 7 hours a day. I love that stuff. Like, I get such a, like, it's just that fear of those other skills of, like, okay, like, I know, and it's funny because I don't really, you talk about that grand vision, I don't really, like, it's really unclear, to be honest with you. It's like, okay, I know I have this kind of vague idea that's out in the clouds somewhere. I'm like, okay, like, and I have an idea of, like, all right, where we're going, but it's like I'm almost like walking through fog, like up the mountain of, like, okay, where are we actually at and what is the process going on, and, like, trying to understand as I go through it, and, like, all right, where am I actually at? And it's that hard part of trying not to comparing myself to others, but only comparing myself to past me. Because I know if I looked at past me, he would be really really proud of where I'm at and how far I've come along. And it's because of the algorithm. Sometimes when I'm like on, especially like kind of TikTok and Instagram, I see all the other ADHD coaches on there, and then it's like, oh man, like, because I'm looking at that content because I'm like getting inspired by it, and I'm looking at the men's content, and then I see all these other people doing it. Then I'm like, oh man, I'm in a saturated field. I'm like, wait a minute, no, I'm not though. Like, there's absolutely not.
The algorithm is trapping you in this little corner.
Like in this corner, which is like not me at all. I'm like, all right, no, there's more aspects. I like how you brought up Lego too, because I'm an avid Lego builder. So like,
it's nice to have a step by step. Here's, I guess, the final thing that I will say based on what you just said is because finally, after a certain amount of the conversation, we get out of our own head. You answered your question. You answered the question I didn't ask, which was like, if you could just do what you wanted to do all day, what would it look like? And you're like, honestly, I'd love to lead 5 or 6 or 7 more of these groups. Dave, my feedback to you is do that. Like, and understand that there are plenty of coaches out there that have these companies that are like, I can't, like, I've grown and I can't facilitate all these groups, and I would gladly pay somebody to facilitate these groups. And there are absolutely coaches that are like, you can't have your own coaching business, blah, blah, blah. Screw them. There are plenty of other coaches. Like I have I have a couple, I have 1 and soon to be 2 coaches working under me on my coaching business. I'm like, have your own business. I don't care, right? I'm paying you to service these clients, right? That's your job. And if you can do that well, yeah, I don't care. Have 5 businesses. I mean, I wouldn't suggest it, but right? Like, if that's what you love and you want to gain more experience and make some money and you have a skill set, I would, and whether that's an ADHD group or whether that's any kind of, recovery groups or this or that, there are always, I promise you, coaches out there looking like, if I could just find somebody like Dave who's young in his practice and just wants to take on a couple of groups and, doesn't, right? Like, you name it, it's out there. And yeah, if that would serve you, because the generic advice I was going to give you is like, find a job that would cause you to interact with potential clients. Like find something where you would run into people that are looking for this, like, go do ADHD tutoring, go do, or whatever, right? Where you would actually run into people.
It's interesting because a lot of those particular, anything in Ireland in particular, what comes around kind of the social health and student services, they have specific qualifications. So you have to meet certain qualifications before you could get in. Because I was trying to go down the non-for-profit route on some companies, but a lot of them
doesn't fit.
QQ5s or something like that. I'm like, okay, which requires like, all right, another 7 months, which is, I'm kind of glad they have those things in place for a reason, but it's like, okay, it's much harder to get into those particular routes.
So then it's the online coaching space or wherever.
Online coaching space or finding a couple of kind of companies or organizations that offer those things or want to offer those. Yeah. No, I had a thought of like, all right, reaching out to actually other coaches of like, yo, YouTube, like, yeah, that's a great idea. I like that.
There's the ones you're following, right? Some of them, or, right? Like, there's, I always, and we gotta close down, but just that question of like, well, what if I just did what I was really skilled at all the time? What if I just, right? Because as you build these skills, right, they're going to benefit you. There, again, other coaches like, okay, you want to learn how to do better at the like online calls. Like, I mean, literally my position, I have leads coming in that I can't service. And so then they just drop off. Like, there are tons of coaches.
If you want to give them to me,
Well, but more realistically, the offer is, hey, you go to the coach and you say, hey, I will be your appointment setter. I will be your, so most coaches have a first line of defense that's like, hey, I'm going to do a half an hour consult call to see if you're a good fit for the program or not, right? And then you get a percentage if the client closes. And then there's the actual salesperson. It's like, okay, we're going to do the full hour. We're going to do the investigation, all of that, right? I have so many coaches, right? Will go and work for a bigger coaching company, will take those jobs. They get to, learn and grow. And again, a lot of those coaches are like, yeah, fine, have your own coaching practice. As long as it doesn't, like, you're not stealing my clients, like, totally cool. And so like that allows you to gain those skills and build those skills. And, they're looking for people that are able to do those things. So I guess what I'm really trying to like near the end of the conversation here, and I want to say this to the anybody, not just to you, but to the anybody listening, is like, what are the skills you want to develop? What are the things that are ancillary or connected to your business rather than going all the way over there, right? How can you provide value? And the core that this comes back to is the self-esteem, which is like, I am enough. The skills I have are enough. The things I do naturally are enough. And then when I really sit in that and really feel that, and we didn't do a lot of emotional work today, but that's okay. But like when I really sit and feel and process that, I will begin automatically seeking out situations in which, you know, my things are valued rather than continuing to put myself in situations where it's either taking me away from my number one goal or I'm feeling once again not good enough because I've put myself in a situation that overstretched me, right? Either is not helpful. So I don't know if that's helpful for you. I think it's very helpful for a lot of like early stage coaches that are there's a whole network out there of people that could use you. I promise, you know, and you just have to find them. But first you have to believe that you're valuable and that the natural talents and gifts that you have are enough to give.
Yeah, no, because it's funny, like, if I ever wanted to learn, like, if I want to learn sushi or Japanese cuisine, I'd go to a Japanese restaurant and go, like, work my way at the bottom, work my way up. Same with Italian or anything else.
Right.
And it's interesting because I've been trying to do all of this kind of business on my own. I'm trying to be all those parts, which is good to kind of learn it. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, I'm at a point of where I know I work best. I work best when I'm in a company, when I'm with a team, when I'm with other people. And if they have a structure, a recipe that I can follow, it becomes that was really insightful of what now when I go look for a job, because I really wasn't like, I love cooking. I love being in a restaurant, but it's like, I dreaded going back there because it felt like a backslide to like old identity. And so, but it's like, okay, become an appointment center, look at these larger coaching companies, see what positions they have available, what I can learn from them, earn while you learn, that my wife likes to use that phrase of like learning those skills, like keep in line with what you're doing, finding someone who's got it and ask and go work for them to figure out how to do it for yourself.
Yeah, it's just a standard apprenticeship model. Like that's all it is, right? But I think in the coaching space, because as you say, there are these elements of the coaching space that could sometimes be predatory. It's like, here, pay me $6,000 and I'll give you a course and you can learn how to develop a coaching company. Okay, yeah, sure. Or come work for me, you know? And again, there's just different types of coaches that do it different ways. So glad that was valuable. We have to wind down. But I hope this conversation was helpful to not just you, but anybody who's trying to build a business. Like the idea is there's somebody out there that needs exactly the talents and gifts that you have, that was where you were at 5 years ago, 10 years ago. That's like, I need that apprentice now so that because I want to train somebody. And maybe maybe you realize you want to be part of their business, or maybe you decide you'll just be out on your own. And this is the same as being a chef, right? Sometimes you're like, no, I'll be a sous chef for 5 years. That's fine. And other times you're like, no, I have my own restaurant concept. I got to go out there. Right. Cool. Like either way, there's no wrong. But it's like, what allows me to continue my journey. So, okay, awesome. Thanks, Dave. I'm going to close us down here. Thanks for your vulnerability and openness. I think a lot of coaches are afraid to share, where they're at in their journey because they want to look like 100% experts or have it all. But the reality is we're all building. We're all in practice. We're all scaling, right? And right now, I'm working with a coach that's like, my numbers don't matter. I do X amount per month. And I'm like, I want to double that. I want to triple that. And my new coach that I started with a month ago is like, I can show you how to do that. I did that. So cool. I'm going to learn from them because I need, I want to learn that. So we're all on that journey. Just because I have a successful business doesn't mean I don't want to keep growing. So I'm right there with you, Dave. It just looks a little different. So
awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for being here. So if this episode resonated with you, that's exactly why we built this. The work you're doing matters, and it's not meant to be done alone. So make sure you're subscribed, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you're listening, and share this with a leader in your life who's ready for something deeper. You can also follow along on Instagram between episodes for more tools, reflections, real conversations, and let us know what you want us to explore next to help you on your journey. This is bigger than a podcast. This is a movement, a community of authentic leaders choosing to grow, to heal, to step into who they were meant to be so that we can make the impact the world actually needs. Side note, Dave, I said earlier, I would love to invite you to the Campfire, which is my like weekly group that's Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern. So I don't know how that works for you, but we would love to have you there if you can. You can come and teach, we can pick a week where you can come and teach, 5-10 minutes of some of the stuff that you have to share. And we would love that. But I am actively building and curating this community of other leaders and growers. And we love to keep you a part of it and not just have you as a guest on the podcast. So thanks for being here, everybody. As always, let's keep evolving on purpose together.